close your eyes. You are about to step through a doorway that has not been opened in nearly 2,000 years. The year is somewhere around 30 after Christ. The place is a small settlement on the northern edge of the Jordan Valley, a village called Bethsaida. Fewer than 500 people live here. No marble streets, no towering buildings, no monuments that would make history remember its name. And yet, this is where we are going. The house in front of you is not what you expect. There is no polished wood, no framed windows, no separate rooms arranged with intention. Instead, it is built from rough basalt stone, dark and uneven, pulled directly from the land beneath your feet. Part of it rises above ground, part of it sinks into it. It feels less like a constructed home, and more like something that grew out of the earth itself. Inside lives a fisherman. His hands are thick, scarred, and permanently rough from rope and water. His wife moves through the space with quiet efficiency, and somewhere nearby, a younger man is beginning to learn what it means to work, to provide, to belong. But before you step inside, consider this. What did the air smell like in a place like this? What sound carried through the walls before the sun rose? What did a man see when he looked down at his own hands, after years of labor that no one recorded, no one praised, and no one remembered? 1. Today, you are not going to hear about history. You are going to walk into it. But before we go any further, you need to understand something. How do we know any of this is real? In the early 21st century, archaeologists began excavating a cluster of first-century homes near the shoreline of the Sea of Galilee. What they uncovered was not a single structure, but an entire pattern of life, preserved in stone. Walls made from black basalt, stacked without mortar in some places, packed with mud in others, narrow doorways, shared courtyards, floors of compacted earth worn smooth by decades of movement. In one site, they found fishing tools buried beneath collapsed stone. In another, fragments of storage jars still carrying residue from oil and grain. And in multiple homes, the same feature appeared again and again. A shallow basin carved into the ground, connected to channels designed to collect and store water. These were not random ruins. They were lived spaces, homes where people woke before sunrise, worked with their hands, ate simple food, and went to sleep under the same roof, day after day, year after year. This is not speculation. This is not imagination. This is the physical world that shaped real lives. And when you stand in one of those excavated rooms today, when you run your hand along the stone, when you see how low the ceilings are, how narrow the space feels, something shifts. Because suddenly, the past is not distant anymore. It is close, uncomfortably close. And it forces a question. If this is what their world actually looked like, then how different is it from the one we have imagined? Forget the paintings, forget the illustrations, forget the clean, quiet versions of ancient life. This place was not clean, it was not quiet, and it was not easy. Bethsaida itself sat near the edge of the lake, close enough to smell the water on the wind. Fishing was not just a job here, it was survival. Nets were repaired constantly, boats were used until they broke, nothing was wasted. And just beyond the village, trade routes connected the region to larger cities. Goods moved, ideas moved, people moved. But the village remained small, tightly bound, predictable, and that is where we are standing now, in front of a doorway no wider than your shoulders. If you step inside, you will not find a story waiting for you. You will find a life, a real one, messy, repetitive, physical, the kind of life that leaves marks on the body long before it leaves marks on history. So take a breath, lower your head slightly, the doorway is low, and step forward, because from this moment on, you are no longer observing, you are inside. The first thing you notice is the darkness, not a soft dimness, not the kind that your eyes adjust to quickly. This is thick, heavy, almost complete. The light outside has not yet reached this room, and what little does enter comes through a narrow slit high in the wall. It is not designed to illuminate, it is designed to protect, to keep heat out, to keep eyes from looking in. You can barely make out the shape of the space around you. The ceiling is low, lower than you expected. If you stand fully upright, you feel it above you, pressing down, reminding you that this is not a place built for comfort. It is built for necessity. Beneath you, the ground is firm but uneven, packed earth, smoothed over time by feet, by movement, by repetition. There are no floorboards. No rugs layered for warmth, just earth. You shift slightly, and something rough brushes against your arm. A woven mat. That is what you slept on. Thin, functional, nothing more. And the cloth covering you, the same one you wore yesterday. In this world, clothing is not seasonal. It is not expressive. It is essential. One garment serves many purposes. You work in it, you walk in it, and at night, you sleep in it. There is a faint smell in the air. Smoke, not fresh smoke, old smoke. The kind that settles into stone, into fabric, into everything. It lingers, clings, refuses to leave. Last night, a small oil lamp burned here. A shallow clay dish, a wick floating in oil. It gave just enough light to see shapes, not details. And in exchange, it left its mark on the room. You inhale again. Earth, smoke, a trace of dampness from the ground. This is what morning smells like. There is movement beside you. A man shifts on his mat, slowly, without urgency. His body does not spring awake. It rises the way a body does when it knows what is coming. Work. His hand presses against the ground as he pushes himself up. You hear the quiet sound of fabric sliding against stone. He pauses for a moment, sitting in the darkness, not thinking, not planning, just beginning. There are no words spoken, no greetings. Morning here is not announced. It arrives. He reaches for his garment, pulls it tighter around his shoulders. The air still holds the cold of night. The stone walls have absorbed it, and they give it back slowly. You can feel it against your skin. He stands, carefully, because the space is tight. His head tilts slightly as he adjusts to the low ceiling. A motion so practiced it requires no thought. This is a space his body understands. You begin to see more now, not because the room has changed, but because your eyes have. Shapes emerge from the dark. A rough wall where stone meets packed earth. A small recess carved into the side, holding a clay vessel. Another mat laid out nearby, where someone else is still sleeping. This is not a private space. It is shared. Everything here is shared. Sleep is shared. Warmth is shared. Silence is shared. The man takes a step toward the doorway. He does not rush. There is no need. Time is not measured here in minutes. It is measured in light. And just outside, the light is beginning to change. A faint gray seeps in through the opening, barely enough to outline the doorway. It draws him forward. You follow. As you move closer, you notice the threshold. Stone worn smooth at the center. Not by years, by generations. Each step, each exit, each return has left its mark. And now, you step over it too. The moment you cross that line, everything shifts. The darkness falls behind you, and the world opens. The first thing that reaches you is the light. Not strong, not harsh, but open. After the weight of the room behind you, it feels almost like stepping into air for the first time. The courtyard is small, but it breathes. Above you, the sky stretches without obstruction. Pale morning light spills down the stone walls, soft at first, then slowly growing stronger. The space is uneven, shaped more by use than by design. This is where life happens, not inside. Here, and before you see anything else, you hear it. A steady, rhythmic sound. Stone against stone. Again, and again, and again. You turn toward it. A woman sits low to the ground, her body angled forward, her hands moving in a practiced motion. One hand grips the handle of a circular stone. The other steadies it. She pushes, pulls, rotates. Grain is caught between the stones. Crushed, broken down into flour. The sound is constant. It does not rise. It does not fall. It continues. This is the sound that begins the day. Not for one house, for the entire village. Before the sun rises fully, this rhythm is already echoing from courtyard to courtyard. It moves through the air, through the walls, through the spaces between homes. It is as predictable as light, because without this, there is no bread. And without bread, there is no day. You watch her for a moment. There is no wasted movement, no hesitation. This is not effort. This is repetition refined into instinct. Beside her, a shallow container begins to fill with coarse flour. It is not white. It is not fine. It is dense, uneven, and real. Nearby, a small oven sits against the wall, rounded, made from packed clay, darkened by use. This is where the bread will be baked, every morning. no exceptions. You take a step further into the courtyard. Now the details begin to appear. Clay jars line one side of the wall. Some are sealed, some are open. They hold oil, grain, dried legumes. Each one is placed with intention, not for display, but for access. Above them, woven baskets hang from wooden pegs, lifted off the ground to keep their contents safe. There is movement near your feet. A chicken scratches at the dirt, pecking, searching. A second follows. In the corner, a small goat shifts against its tether, the rope pulling gently against a wooden stake driven into the ground. Everything here has a purpose. Nothing exists without function. And then you see it. Set slightly off-center, cut directly into the ground. A circular opening, stone-lined. You move closer. It is deeper than it first appears. A cistern. This is not just a feature of the house. It is the center of it. Water does not arrive here from a distant source. There are no pipes, no flowing systems hidden beneath the surface. Every drop that fills this space has been captured. When the rains come, water runs across the roof, guided by simple channels directed toward this opening. Before it enters, it passes through a shallow basin where heavier particles settle out. Then it descends into this chamber, stored, protected, preserved. You look down into it. Even in the dim morning light, you can see the faint reflection of the sky above, broken by the curve of the stone walls. This is what they drink, what they cook with, what they wash with, what they depend on. If the rains are generous, the household breathes easier. If they are not, everything changes. You step back. The courtyard is no longer just a space. It is a system, every element connected. Grain becomes flour. Flour becomes bread. Water sustains everything. Animals provide what they can. And at the center of it all, people move through these tasks without pause. The woman at the mill does not look up. She does not need to. This is her morning. This is every morning. The sound continues. Stone against stone. A rhythm that does not ask for attention, but demands survival. And as the light grows stronger, more of the village begins to wake. Voices carry faintly over the walls. Another courtyard. Another family. Another set of hands, beginning the same work. The air fills with motion, with purpose, with life that does not wait. You stand in the middle of it now, not as an observer, but as someone inside the pattern, and the day has only just begun. But there is something else you have been carrying with you, an assumption, a quiet image that has followed you into this place without being questioned. You may not even realize it is there. For generations, we have described men like the one who lives in this house with a single word: carpenter. It is a word that brings a very specific picture to mind. Wood shavings on the ground, a bench covered in tools, hands shaping beams, smoothing surfaces, assembling furniture piece by piece. It is a clean image, orderly, familiar. But stand here for a moment and look around you again. There is no forest stretching across the horizon, no stacks of timber waiting to be cut, no abundance of wood to build with. Instead, the land is hard, rocky, relentless. The hills are made of stone. The walls are made of stone. Even the ground beneath your feet is stone. So what would a man actually work with in a place like this? The answer changes everything. The word that has been translated as carpenter comes from a term that means something far broader. A builder, a craftsman who works with what is available. And here, what is available is stone. Imagine the work now, not inside a quiet workshop, but outside, on uneven ground, under the open sky. You follow the man as he leaves the courtyard, stepping into the narrow path that winds between homes. The village is fully awake now. Movement is everywhere, but his direction is clear. He is not wandering. He is going to work. Beyond the cluster of houses, the terrain opens slightly. The ground is scattered with broken rock, fragments from earlier work. This is where shaping begins. You hear it before you see it. A sharp, ringing sound. Metal striking stone. Precise, repeated, controlled. He kneels beside a block of basalt. It is irregular, pulled from the earth, heavy and resistant. He positions it carefully, then reaches for his tools. They are simple, but not crude. A chisel, a hammer, a line for measuring. Each one worn from use, edges softened slightly, surfaces marked by years of contact. These are not disposable items. They are kept, maintained, passed down. He places the chisel against the stone and strikes. Once, the sound cuts through the air. Again, a fragment breaks away, not cleanly. Stone does not yield easily. It resists. It fractures unpredictably. It demands patience. Dust rises with each strike, fine and dry, catching in the morning light. It settles on his hands, in the lines of his skin, along the creases of his fingers. You watch his grip, firm, controlled. This is not delicate work. It is physical, relentless, and it leaves its mark. Look at his hands, not smooth, not unmarked. The skin is thickened, hardened. Small cuts cross the surface, some fresh, some long-healed. There is no way to do this work without being shaped by it. The stone changes, but so does the man. Around him, others are working too, not in silence, but in rhythm. The sound of tools striking rock overlaps, echoes, builds into something larger than any single motion. This is construction, not of one house, but of many. And beyond the immediate worksite, something else is happening. If you were to walk for less than an hour, you would reach a growing center of activity, a place where larger structures are rising, where roads are being laid, where influence from beyond this region is beginning to take visible form, and men like him are part of it. They move between the village and these expanding spaces, carrying skill, carrying labor, carrying the quiet knowledge of how to take what is raw and make it usable. This is not the work of shaping furniture. This is the work of shaping the world people live in. Walls, foundations, structures that will outlast the hands that built them. He posed for a moment, not to rest, but to measure, to look, to judge the line of the cut. Then he strikes again, and again, each movement deliberate, each impact necessary. This is not symbolic work. It is not poetic. It is exact. And it changes how you understand everything that comes after. Because when a man like this speaks about foundations, about strength, about what holds and what fails, he is not speaking in ideas. He is speaking from experience, from weight, from resistance, from the memory of stone beneath his hands. You stand there, watching, listening, feeling the rhythm of the strikes settle into something steady, predictable, unavoidable. This is the center of his day. This is where most of his hours are spent. Not in theory, not in abstraction, but here, with dust in the air, with sound in his ears, with effort in every motion, and as the sun climbs higher, the light sharpens, the shadows shorten, the work continues. Because in this world, nothing is built without cost. By the time the sun reaches its highest point, the rhythm changes, not because the work is finished, but because the body has limits. The tools are set down, not discarded, but placed carefully where they will be found again. Dust settles slowly back onto the ground. The ringing of metal fades, replaced by something quieter. A pause, not silence, but a shift. You follow him back along the narrow path toward the house. The village feels different now. The light is stronger. The shadows are shorter. The air is warmer, carrying the faint scent of baked grain and smoke. As you step back into the courtyard, the space is already prepared. A woven mat has been laid out on the ground. There is no table, no elevated surface to gather around. Everything happens at the level of the earth. The family sits close together, not arranged formally, not separated, simply gathered. At the center, a single dish, clay, shallow, holding a thick stew. You see lentils, dark, softened by heat, pieces of onion, a trace of oil glistening on the surface. The smell is simple, but full, grounded. Beside it, bread, flat, round, still warm. It has been baked in the oven you saw earlier, pressed against the inner wall where heat is held and shared. The surface is uneven, slightly charred in places, firm on the outside, softer within. This is not a side dish. This is the meal. You watch as a piece is torn by hand, not cut, not divided evenly, just taken. It is dipped into the stew, used as both utensil and food, passed, shared, consumed. There is no abundance here, but there is enough, and enough is everything. A small cup is brought forward, clay again. Inside, liquid darkened slightly, diluted, wine mixed with water, safer to drink, measured to last. Each element is deliberate, nothing wasted, nothing excessive. Before anyone eats, there is a pause. The man sits upright. His hands still carry the dust of the morning, Faint traces of stone settled into the lines of his skin. He does not wash them away completely. Not because he does not care, but because this is not a world of separation between work and life. They are the same. He lifts his voice, not loudly, not for others to hear, but clearly, a blessing, words that have been spoken before this day and will be spoken again after it. The language is ancient, the rhythm familiar, a recognition that what is placed before them did not begin with them. It came from the ground, from the rain, from the work of hands, and ultimately, from something beyond all of that. The others listen, not as if hearing it for the first time, but as if remembering something they already know. Then they eat. There is no rush, no distraction, no conversation that pulls attention away from the act itself. Eating here is not background, it is central. You notice how the bread is handled, carefully. Nothing falls without being noticed. Nothing is left behind without reason. Every piece matters, because this is what sustains them, not occasionally, not symbolically, every day. Most of what their bodies rely on comes from this simple combination. Grain, ground and baked, consumed again and again, forming the foundation of life itself. You take a moment and look around. The courtyard is quiet now. The grinding has stopped. The animals rest in the shade. The light presses down from above, strong and direct. This is the center of the day, a moment held between effort and return, between what has been done and what will be required again. And in this moment, something becomes clear. When a man raised in a place like this speaks about bread, he is not reaching for an abstract idea. He is speaking about survival. When he speaks about hunger, he knows its weight. When he speaks about provision, he has lived its absence and its presence. This is not metaphor, it is memory. The meal continues until the dish is nearly empty. Not completely. There is always an awareness of what remains, what might be needed later, what cannot be replaced easily. When they finish, there is another pause, another set of words. Longer this time, gratitude extended beyond the moment of receiving, into the recognition of having been sustained. Then, slowly, the space begins to shift again. The mat will be cleared. The tools will be lifted. The work will return. Because in this world, rest is not the end of labor. It is only the space between it, and the day is not over. As the heat of the day begins to fade, something changes again. Not in a sudden way. Not like the shift from darkness to light, or from work to rest. This change is slower, quieter, but just as important. The tools have been used. The meal has been shared. The demands of the day have taken their portion. Now, the movement of the household turns upward. You notice it first in the way the man looks toward the edge of the courtyard. There is no spoken instruction, no announcement, but there is an understanding. He moves toward a narrow set of stone steps built into the side of the wall. Worn, uneven, used countless times. You follow him. Each step is shallow, shaped by hands and feet rather than precise measurement. As you climb, the air shifts. It becomes lighter, less confined. The sounds of the courtyard fall away behind you. And then you reach the top. The roof, flat, open, unexpectedly solid beneath your feet. It is not made of loose material. It has been built carefully. Wooden beams stretch across the span, supporting layers of reed and packed earth. The surface has been pressed down until it is firm, almost like a hardened path. A low wall runs along the edge, not decorative, protective, just high enough to keep someone from stepping too close without noticing. From here, you can see beyond the house. Other rooftops stretch outward, forming a patchwork of similar spaces. Some are empty, others are occupied. A figure sits in the distance. Another moves slowly, adjusting something laid out to dry. This is not a private space. It is shared in a different way. Above the village, yet still part of it. During the day, this place serves many purposes. Food is brought up here to dry in the sun. Grain is spread thinly across the surface. Figs, if they are available, are laid out carefully. The heat does the work that time alone cannot. Cloth is worked here as well. Spoon, woven, repaired. The light is better here than anywhere inside the house. What cannot be done in the dim interior can be done here. And when the heat becomes too heavy below, this is where people come to breathe. But now, as the sun lowers, the purpose changes again. The light softens. The sharp edges of the day begin to dissolve. The sky shifts from bright white to pale gold. then deeper, warmer tones. Shadows stretch across the rooftops, lengthening slowly as the sun descends toward the horizon. A breeze moves across the open space, gentle, carrying with it the scent of water from the lake, mixed with the lingering traces of smoke from cooking fires below. You feel it on your skin. After the heat of the day, it is a relief. The man stands near the edge, looking out, not searching, not waiting, simply present. For the first time since morning, there is no task in his hands. No tool, no immediate demand, just space and time. The village below grows quieter, not silent, but slower. Voices soften. Movements become less urgent. The rhythm that drove the day begins to release its hold. Above you, the sky continues to change. Blue fades into deeper shades. The first point of light appears. A star, then another, then more. One by one, they emerge, until the sky is no longer empty, but filled. There is no artificial light here to compete with them. No glow from windows. No distant hum of a city. Only darkness and what shines within it. The man lowers his gaze slightly. His posture shifts, not dramatically, but intentionally. His hands come together, and he begins to speak. The words are not improvised. They are not new. They have been spoken before, many times, in this place and in others like it. Morning and evening, day after day, year after year. They are carried in memory, not written down in front of him, not read, but known. The cadence is steady, measured. There is no rush to finish, no attempt to impress. This is not performance. This is practice. A returning, a grounding. The sounds rise into the open air and seem to settle there, carried upward, not contained by walls. Around you, on other rooftops, you begin to notice the same thing. Figures pausing, voices lifting quietly. The village, spread across stone and earth, becomes something unified for a moment. Not by movement, but by stillness, by attention, by the act of turning towards something greater than the work of the day. You stand there, listening, not to understand every word, but to feel the weight of them, because this is not an occasional moment. This is a pattern, as regular as waking, as necessary as eating. When the words end, there is no signal, no conclusion marked. The silence that follows is not empty. It is full. The kind of silence that does not demand to be filled. The man remains where he is for a moment longer, looking upward, breathing. Then, slowly, he turns. The night has arrived, and with it, the final rhythm of the day begins. But there is one more rhythm you have not yet seen, one that does not happen every day, and because of that, it changes everything. The pattern of work, of meals, of movement through the courtyard and the roof, all of it continues, day after day, with little variation, until one moment arrives, and the entire village shifts. It begins as the sun lowers on a specific day, not marked by a clock, not announced by a signal you would recognize, but known, felt, anticipated. The air itself seems to slow. The same courtyard where you stood earlier begins to change. More lamps are lit than usual. Small flames flicker inside shallow clay dishes, their light soft but intentional. Shadows move along the walls in a different way now, not shaped by necessity, but by attention. The family gathers again, but this time, there is a difference. Clothing has been adjusted, not replaced with something elaborate, but made as clean, as ordered as possible. The space has been cleared more carefully, the mat laid out with greater intention. This is not an ordinary evening. Food is brought forward, still simple, still grounded in what the household has, but prepared with more care. If fish is available, it is placed at the center, cooked, arranged, treated as something set apart from the routine meals of the week. The smell rises into the air, richer than before, not extravagant, but noticeable. The man takes his place. Again, there is a pause. Again, words are spoken, but the tone is different, not because the words themselves have changed dramatically, but because of what they mark, the beginning of something set apart. From this moment forward, the pattern breaks. No work, no building, no carrying of tools, no grinding of grain. The rhythm that has driven every other day stops, not gradually, completely. The tools remain where they are. The unfinished work waits. It will still be there when this time ends. But for now, It is left behind. You feel it in the stillness, the absence of sound that was once constant. No stone striking stone, no grinding in the courtyard, no movement driven by necessity. Only presence, only being. The night deepens. The lamps continue to burn. The family remains together longer than usual. There is space for conversation now, for listening, for remembering. And as the next morning comes, the change continues. The village does not wake in the same way. There is no rush toward labor, no immediate return to the demands of survival. Instead, people gather, not randomly, not without purpose. They move toward a shared space. In larger towns, there would be a designated building. Here, in a place like this, it may simply be the largest available room or an open area that can hold the community together. You follow. The space fills gradually. Men, women, children, they do not arrive as strangers. They arrive as people who know one another, who share not only proximity, but identity. There is no stage, no separation between those who speak and those who listen. The focus is not on performance, it is on memory. A scroll is brought forward, handled carefully, unrolled. The text is spoken aloud, not silently read, not individually interpreted, spoken so that all can hear. The language is ancient, older than the buildings around you, older than the people who now listen to it. And as it is read, something else happens. It is explained, not in the same language, but in the one people use every day, so that no one is left outside of its meaning. You look around, no one is distracted, no one is disengaged, because this is not information, this is foundation. This is what shapes how they live, how they work, how they rest. It defines what is right, what is wrong, what is remembered, and what must never be forgotten. Prayers follow, voices rising together, not perfectly in unison, but unified in intent. You hear familiar phrases repeated, not because they lack originality, but because repetition is the point, to speak the same words, again and again, until they are not just spoken, but carried within. This is not separate from daily life. It is the center of it. When the gathering ends, people do not rush away. There is no urgency to return to unfinished tasks, because for this space of time, those tasks do not exist. You step back, watching as the village holds this slower rhythm, a full day, set apart. And then, as the sun lowers once more, it ends, quietly, without announcement. The lamps will dim, the tools will be lifted again, the grinding will resume, the sound of labor will return. But something has been marked, a boundary in time, a reminder that life is not only made of what must be done, but also of what must be remembered. And as you stand there, you realize something. This rhythm, this pause, this deliberate stepping away from constant work is not a break from life. It is what gives life its shape. Now step back, not physically, but in your mind. Look again at everything you have seen. The darkness of the room before sunrise, the low ceiling pressing close above you, the woven mat against the ground, the smell of smoke that never quite leaves, the courtyard opening into light, the sound of stone grinding grain, steady and unbroken, the careful storage of food, the water hidden beneath the surface, held in stone, the work, the weight of it, the sound of iron striking rock, the dust settling into the lines of a man's hands, the slow shaping of something that resists being shaped, the meal, bread torn, not cut, shared, not owned, enough, but never excess, the roof, the open sky, the wind moving across the surface, the first stars appearing in silence, the words spoken into the night, repeated, remembered, carried, the day that stops everything, the gathering, the reading, the stillness that replaces motion, all of it, one place, one rhythm, one life. And here is what matters most. This is not an extraordinary life. There is nothing here that would draw attention from the outside world. No wealth, no power, no recognition. If you were to pass by this village without stopping, you would not remember it. If you were to walk through it quickly, you might not even notice the people who live here. And yet, this is the kind of place where history was shaped, not in the way we usually imagine, not through armies or empires or public declarations, but through ordinary days, repeated, lived fully, felt deeply. Consider what it means to grow up here, to wake in that room, to step into that courtyard, To learn the rhythm of work before you learn anything else. To understand, from the beginning, that survival is not guaranteed, but earned. That food does not appear. It is prepared. That water is not assumed. It is stored. That rest is not constant. It is given, and then it ends. Every part of life teaches something, without explanation, without instruction. You learn by doing, by watching, by repeating, and over time, those patterns become part of you. They shape how you see the world, how you understand strength, how you understand need, how you understand dependence, not just on your own effort, but on things beyond your control. Rain, growth, provision, presence. Now think about the words that come from a life like this. Words about foundations, about what lasts and what does not. Words about hunger and what satisfies it. Words about light and what it means in a place where darkness is real. Words about water, not as an idea, but as something you must have, or you do not live. These are not abstract concepts. They are lived realities, and that changes how you hear them. Because they are not spoken from distance, they are spoken from inside this world, from within this kind of house, from within this kind of life. There is no separation between the message and the place it came from. They are the same, and that is what is so easy to miss. When you imagine the past as cleaner than it was, more distant than it was, less physical than it was, you lose something. You lose the weight of it, the texture of it, the reality of it. But now you have seen it. You have stepped into it. You have felt the space, heard the sounds, moved through the day as it unfolds. And once you see it this way, it becomes difficult to return to the version that is easier to imagine. Because this version is harder, but it is also closer to what was real, closer to what was lived, closer to what it actually meant to be there. And as you stand in that realization, something shifts, not in the space around you, but in how you understand it. This is not just a setting. It is a life that gives meaning to everything built upon it. And without it, those meanings begin to fade. But with it, they come back into focus, clear, concrete, unavoidable. And suddenly, the distance between then and now does not feel quite as wide as it did before. And now, bring it closer, not back to the village, but forward to your own life, because everything you have just seen does not stay in the past. It reaches into the present in ways that are easy to overlook. Think about the rhythm of that day, waking before the light fully arrives, moving into work that requires your body, not just your attention, eating food that is simple but necessary, returning again and again to the same tasks. There is nothing extraordinary about it. No moment designed to impress, no part of it built for display, and yet it is full of effort, full of dependence, full of quiet meaning. Now consider your own days, the parts that feel repetitive, the work that does not receive recognition, the routines that seem to blur together, one into the next, the moments that feel small, unnoticed, easily dismissed. It is easy to believe that those moments do not matter. That meaning is found somewhere else, somewhere bigger, more visible, more significant. But what if that is not true? What if meaning is not something added to life from the outside, but something already present within it? In the repetition, in the effort, in the ordinary. The man in that house does not wake up expecting his day to be remembered. He does not measure his work by how many people will see it. He does not eat his meal thinking about how it will be described. He lives it, fully, because it is what is in front of him, because it is what is required, and because it is what sustains him and the people around him. There is something honest about that, something unfiltered, a life that does not need to appear meaningful, because it already is. And that changes how you see your own. The early mornings, the responsibilities, the tasks that repeat without recognition, they are not interruptions. They are the structure. They are the framework that holds everything else together. In that village, no one is waiting for a different life to begin. This is the life, and it is enough, not because it is easy, but because it is real. Now think about what it means to be understood within that kind of life. To be seen, not in your best moments, but in your most ordinary ones. To be known, not for what stands out, but for what repeats. The work, the fatigue, the quiet persistence. If someone has lived within that pattern, if they have woken to the same darkness, worked through the same heat, eaten the same simple food, and stood under the same night sky. Then they do not need an explanation. They already know. They know what it feels like to be tired before the day is finished, to carry responsibility that does not pause, to return to the same work again and again without certainty of the outcome. And that kind of understanding is different. It is not distant. It is not theoretical. It is immediate, personnel, grounded. So when you think about your own life, the parts that feel unnoticed, the parts that feel repetitive, the parts that feel small, remember this. Those are not the parts that are missing meaning. They are the places where meaning lives, where it has always lived, not in what is rare, but in what is constant, not in what is seen by many, but in what is carried by one. And suddenly, the distance between that ancient house and your own life begins to disappear, because at their core, they are not as different as they seem. So hold that image for a moment, not the grand version of history, not the one shaped by distance or imagination, but this one, a low doorway, a dark room, a courtyard filled with sound, hands marked by work, bread broken and shared, a roof open to the night, a life that repeats and yet never loses its weight. Because once you see it clearly, something changes. The past is no longer abstract. It is not a collection of ideas. It is a place, a physical place, with texture, with resistance, with limits. And the people who lived there were not distant figures. They were not removed from the realities you know. They woke up tired. They worked until their bodies felt it. They ate what they had. They hoped for what they did not yet see. They carried responsibility without certainty. They lived in the tension between what was needed and what was possible, just like you. And that is where the connection becomes real, not in the extraordinary moments, but in the ordinary ones, the ones that do not stand out, the ones that are easy to overlook, the ones that feel like they will be forgotten, because those are the moments that make up a life, not the highlights, not the interruptions, but the steady, repeated rhythm of showing up again and again. And if a life like that, in a place like this, can carry meaning, then so can yours. Not because it is perfect, not because it is easy, but because it is real, because it is lived, because it is happening now. So the next time you think about the past, do not imagine it from a distance. Step into it. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Hear the sound of work beginning. Notice the small details that hold everything together. And remember, meaning is not something you have to search for somewhere else. It is already present, in the work, in the repetition, in the quiet moments that no one else sees. If this changed the way you see that world, and your own, stay with that, and take one more step. Think about what stood out to you most. Was it the work, the simplicity of the meal, the rhythm of the day, or the stillness of the night? Hold on to that detail, because that is where the connection begins. And if you are willing, return to it, again and again, just like they did.